Great Debaters Contest is brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.
Hello and welcome to the greatest show on this side of the Sahara, the Great Debaters Contest. I am your host, Austin Nyambok.
And I am Mariam Bishar.
Is the problem not the education system, but actually the educators themselves? That is the question that we seek to answer today.
And debating this motion will be, on one hand, Utumishi Boys Academy, who claim they are the epitome of excellence in debate. Their opponents are the lovely ladies of Starehe girls, who care about only three things: time, words, and opportunity. Let's leave it to the debaters now. First debater, you have 3 minutes.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I am Zipporah Wanjiku from Starehe Girls, and today I strongly propose this motion. As Edward Everett once said, education is a better safeguard of liberty than a standing army. This only shows the importance of education in our society. Education is the only key to success, and that's why today we have to sit down and think about the really issues that are affecting our education system in our country, and even what's slowing down our education processes. One of the issues that slows down our education process is the embezzlement of funds. When funds are embezzled, it leads to low facilities being provided. It leads to even the teacher strikes that we have around. The teachers are not well paid. If a teacher is not paid, then this means that we will not be having adequate funds to facilitate our education system. And who embezzle these funds? The educators. And who is an educator in this case? An educator is a person who educates, or a person who's involved in the planning and directing of education. And education is a form of learning in which the knowledge, skills, and habits of a group of people are transferred from one generation to the next through teaching, training, or research. A system is a set of principles or procedures according to which something is done or organized. And therefore, when I say that an education system, in this case, I'm referring to a set of principles that govern the learning and acquisition of knowledge. Therefore, if we have the embezzlement of funds, we won't be having the proper education process and the learning and the acquisition of these funds, because we'll need the facilities. We'll need to pay the teachers and the facilitators who are going to go and send about this knowledge to the students. On my second point, the poor working conditions that we have around, like lack of enough classrooms. A teacher comes and teaches a student under trees. This will lead to, the teacher will even be demoralized. I'm coming to teach students under a tree. The teaching profession will no longer be a calling, but it will be a duty, because the teacher will not be saying that I'm going to teach. It will be rather, I'm going to do my work, because I do not have proper working conditions. I don't have proper classrooms. I do not have meals, transport, maybe I'm coming from far, and therefore I won't even have the morale and the motivation that I need to go and impact knowledge onto my students. So if we have to really, and this will lead to the slowing down of our education processes around our country. So if we have to really improve on our education process, we have to deal with the embezzlement of funds and even improve our working conditions of our teachers. This will sure enough be a solution to our problem. Thank you so much.
First opposer, you have 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Philip Avila from Utumishi Academy, and I will be opposing the motion. The education system is not the problem, but the educators themselves. Now, in this instance, you find that I'd like to show you that the educators themselves are not in truth the problem, contrary to as stated by the proposers. First of all, the embezzlement of funds, I'd like for them to explain how this actually comes back to the educators, because in my opinion, the educators are the persons who have accepted the responsibility of instilling the knowledge into people to achieve a certain set of goals. Now, I'll give you an instance where the educators have done an apt job. For instance, in today's newspaper, in the Standard, you will find the case of Mwiki High School, that is in Kiambu. Now, the school has a measure of less than a football pitch, that is 86 meters by 83 meters, smaller than a football pitch, accommodating 2,700 students. And in such a setting, you find that there are 67 teachers in the same school with such meager facilities. And these teachers, 70% of them are university graduates. So this just goes without saying that the educators in themselves are responsible. Now, how has the system failed? 8 minus 4 minus 4 is 0. So the Kenyan system is our 8 for 4. What are we to get out of this? In truth, I think one of the reasons that this system was put up in 1985 was to serve national development by producing skilled manpower. Now, the fact of producing skilled manpower in instilling the knowledge suggests practicality. But in truth, as we stand today, education in Kenya, or the education per se, the education system per se, encourages a theoretical sort of education, whereby it exalts an exam-oriented form of trend. So you find that students will do anything to pass, but not really to get the knowledge that is being given to them. So the system in truth has failed, if I am to so say. Equally, a problem is something that, or is a difficulty that rises and has to be resolved. So if in truth then, that the educators are the problem, and I have given you an apt instance as to why, or how we can see that the educators are actually responsible, then how are they the problem? Because in truth, the system is providing nothing of worth to us thus far. It is exalting the exam-oriented pattern, but we're not getting the skilled manpower that is actually the objective of the system. So from that, I do not see how the system is being apt to us. Thank you.
Second proposer, you have 3 minutes.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Susan Herrera from Starehe Girls. Now we are talking about inadequate facilities. The opposers have talked about the school in Kiambu. I have a question. How is that related to the 844 system? The reason as per why that school is lying on a very, it has a larger capacity, but the school is kind of, it's small, the dimensions are small. It is because of the educators. Educators here doesn't really mean the teachers, but also the Ministry of Education. It is the right, it is the obligation of the Ministry of Education to allocate funds to these students, to allocate funds to these schools, so that they can get a larger ground to build their school. Therefore here, it has nothing to do with the 844 system. It is about the educators. It is the educators who have failed to play their part, and that is why that school is lying on that small area. Secondly, since the introduction of free primary education, the funds were allocated to different schools. And unfortunately, some of the teachers and some of the people who are supposed to allocate these funds to these schools, they misembezzled it. What came as an outcome? That's why you find that the education that is the free primary education, it is not properly funded. Therefore, it is the educators, it is these people who are given this obligation to go and distribute these funds that failed in their part, not the system itself. The system itself provided the 844 system, it provided the curriculum, but these educators are the ones who have failed in their part. On to my first point. Teachers, if you have this mentality that you're going to meet approximately 100 students in a class, you are going to have a bad attitude. And that is why, as the first proposer has said, teachers are going to work rather than teach, because they obviously have a bad attitude. How are they going to work? How are they going to teach a class of 100 plus students? Seriously, it is not possible. Secondly, the teachers have failed. Last time the teachers refused to sign the performance contract. That means they have no one to follow them. Even if they do not produce, even if they teach and their work doesn't yield good results, there is no one to follow them. There is lack of accountability. This is simply because they failed to sign the performance contract. And by that, what are we doing to our education? We are simply ruining it and taking it to the drains. We've heard of cases where teachers go to teach when they're influenced in drugs. For instance, we have had teachers who go to class when they have taken alcohol, they have taken other drugs, and this simply means that they're failing on their part. They think that first of all, they're even they're giving a bad impression to the students, and I don't think they'll be very efficient when they're under influence of drugs. I strongly stand and say that it is not the system that has a problem. It is the educators, it is the teachers, it is the Ministry of Education, but not the system itself. Thank you.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes.
My name is Brian Monaita from Utumishi Boys Academy, and I am here to oppose the motion. The education system is not the problem, but the educators. I wish to start by differing with Susan. The example my fellow opposer gave was to show that the intentions of this system are good, but the logic used in applying this system is what is lacking. The logic used to apply this system is what has so many defects and deficits and lack of transparency that it makes even the educators under it subject negative services, subject poor services. Can you imagine what would have happened if MacDonald Mariga or Dennis Oliech were subjected to the necessities of this current 844 system you're undergoing? Can you imagine if Oliech during the holidays was subjected to holiday tuition from 8 to 4? If Mariga during the weekends had to go to school from 8 to 12, do you think they would be the stars they are today, discovering and developing their talents? I leave you to ponder that. Now on to my first point. The products of this type of schooling are passive. What do I mean by this? The focus of the 844 system is more on the theory than the practice. This just produces half-baked graduates who are only good at one thing, cramming, nothing more. They don't understand concepts. Employers everywhere are complaining about this kind of graduates being dispelled by our secondary schools and our universities. Also, we have the discrepancy in this system. We find that the first 8 years, you're answering questions by a multiple choice. For the next 4 years, it's blank and you're filling things from your mind. How many students do you know of were champions in class 8 and then they go on to secondary and all of a sudden they're dropping and you don't understand it? There are many. We also have this system is exam-based and focuses more on the passing of exams. Why should you waste 12 years of your life for it to be determined by 21 papers at the end of your secondary course? What were all those 8 years for? What were all those 4 years for? Why are you being subjected to have your life defined by a few papers you did in less than 6 hours per subject? It does not make sense, this system. It does not at all. We also have the problem of this system and its transparency. If you observe at the 844 system, we really do not know the confines of this system and what exactly is used to apply this. We do not know those who set the syllabus. We do not see the essence of all those. Why should you have to do 8 subjects? Are you going to use all of them? Ask your parent if they use geography in their day-to-day lives. I don't see my mom using physics in cooking. So I believe that this system has a lot of, if I may say, paraphernalia that is unnecessary. It's just filling up the mind. Like Sherlock Holmes says, for you to be effective, you need to fill your mind with what you need, not what you don't need. And I believe that you should support me, because we all remember the case of Mercy Chebet, a 14-year-old girl, who killed herself because of failing in KCP. What did she say? The system does not allow her to repeat. Thank you.
Biashara, income, not for a prize. Laundry paid, life got easy. All these things, my head got dizzy. M-Pesa to the rescue, life not stressful.
Take part in the M Challenge by sending your short song, rap, or poem about Safaricom M-Pesa on WhatsApp, and you could win 1,000 shillings in Safaricom airtime.
Questions for the proposers?
Muthoni from Kahuya Girls. This goes to the proposers. You've dwelt so much on the educators and that they are the ones who embezzle the funds. What about public schools which are run by the government? In this case, who is embezzling the funds?
Question for the opposers?
My question goes to the opposers. I'm Abdullah Malim from Light Academy. You are talking about the system, mostly. So what is the connection between the system and the educators?
Third proposer, take the stage.
My name is Lina from Starehe Girls Center. And one thing that you have to know is that in this world, Everything has a reason if you only search for it. So to the second proposer who just talked about you don't know where your mother uses physics in cooking, I'd like to let you know that there is effect of heat that your mother uses, and she acquired that knowledge from physics in cooking. So everything that happens, it has a reason if you diligently search for it. And then the question about how the educators embezzle funds, we didn't say that the educators embezzle funds. Now the government allocates these funds to a group of committee in a certain school. And this group of committee that were part of educators, now if such funds are not utilized properly, if such funds are not put into good use, it means that they're going to discourage these educators. And automatically when you're discouraged, you have nothing to make you, to propagate you towards giving the best to your students. On to my first point. We have to know that, teachers have to know that the big investments of tomorrow need not to be on the stock exchange, they need to be in our schools. And after knowing this, it means that they will have that passion to teach. They will have that passion to put an impact in someone's life. They will have that passion to change that aspect of a child. Even if the population is that large, or even if situations are not that well, even if the system does not provide good conditions for them, they have to have that urge to support the students. Now, if these educators do not have the urge to support these students, do you expect the education system to work? It does not work. Now, these educators have failed the education system because they're not ready to work for the better of the education system. 2, one of the goals of the 844 system is to bring up morally upright, patriotic citizens, and this is hampered by the fact that some subjects, such as history and government and religious education, are made optional in schools. As for me, if the president of this country if I were one of the educators in this country, which I know that I will be, I have to make this subject something to be so compulsory. Religious education is so important in our lives. History and government is so important for students. To make you people the right people who are going to drive and to propagate this issue that you keep on complaining about the education system. Now, if these subjects are going to be made optional, it means that you do not want your students to become more patriotic. You don't want them to bring up morally upright people. Now, they have failed on their part. They have done it. Some of the teachers, as the second proposer, Susan said, they come into classes when they are drunk or under the influence of drug abuse. As you said, you were talking about the influence of drug abuse. We found that it's one of the things that make us not to prosper as a nation. Now, as teachers, you know that you have to have integrity. You have to be integral in dealing some of these matters. There is no way I'll come to a class, I'm a drunk teacher, and expect a student to look at me, and I'm driving in an algebraic equation, just trying to doze over the board. What are you trying to show the students? Come on, if you really want Kenya to go ahead, if you really want Kenya to become a country that has developed, then it all begins with us. You are the change that you want to see in the world. Then you are the change that you want to see in Kenya. Thank you very much.
Third opposer, you have 3 minutes to respond.
My name is Billy Koech. So first, in response to our fellow proposers, they did say that my companion here, his mother did not apply physics in cooking. Well, I'd like to just say this, that during those days, physics wasn't considered a subject to be done by girls. So that is nullified. So on to the first question. You asked what's the relationship between educators and the system. Well, educators do create the system, and they're the ones who implement the system. There's the relationship, simple and clear, lucid. Now, it's just as simple as 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. What's that? 4, right? Now, think of this. 1 student, 1 teacher, 1 class, 1 teacher, 1 book, 1 class, 1 approved system. Now, statistically, and actually you should be paying me in accordance with the words of my principal to tell you this, if you are to start a school and you are torn between facilitating it with teachers and books, well, best that you buy books. Give the teacher the 1 book and let the teacher teach 1 class, and be sure that the class will pass. That is statistically approved. If knowledge is direct proportional to our heads, then certainly I'm sure Kenyans would have the biggest heads. Do you agree with me? Yeah, indeed. It's the system, and you can see. Now, there is no economic development if you continue this system. Basically, this system promotes higher competition. Now, think and stick with me. So in accordance to the law of conservation of linear momentum, for a system of colliding bodies, the total linear momentum is conserved provided no external forces act. Now, if the system remains with its basis in 3 days or 1 month ranking examinations, then be sure that we will not be advancing in the right direction. If we continue drumming it into students' heads that some careers are just better than others, then we will not be heading to a brighter future. Just think with me, who will provide the services, the home services in the house? Who will provide the metal boxes that we use to carry our luggage to school? Who will provide the food through agriculture? Think with me. Now, basically, the system is what is wrong. The system suppresses our free will by making things compulsory. We are suppressed. Now, the 844 system was a brainchild of His Excellency Daniel Arap Moi. It was actually by the educationalist Professor McKay, that is in the 1980s. 30 years down the line, I think it's about time the system was scrapped. It's about time we're done with it. The progress of a nation can be no swifter than its progress in education. The mind is the fundamental resource. Let's scrap this old system. Thank you.
Closing statements, beginning with the proposers. You have 1 minute.
When I look at everybody in this hall, I see greatness in you. But there's only one thing going to hinder us from reaching this greatness. We ask questions that other people ask, and we receive answers from other people's answers. Now it's high time that you ask questions that no one else will ask and find answers for those questions. As the saying goes, a bad workmanship blames his tools. Let us stop blaming the education system to our education failure. Thank you very much, and I hope you think about that.
Proposers, you also have 1 minute for your final submissions.
Philip Afula from Utumishi. A set of integrating, interdependent or interrelating components that come together to form an integrated whole. In simplicity, a system. Now, with the one at hand, we have seen the failures given, and we have seen that in my instance earlier provided, the educators are actually making effort towards harvesting better fruits in the future, or making something out of the badness or the unworth that is the system. Now, the system has been there over a long period of time, and in truth, we have seen where it has gotten us. So for its impracticality, and even truth that we learned from our mistakes, then I ask that we should support the fact that this old system should be scraped off, and that we should also be able to embrace new systems that might help us to gain better from this. Thank you.
Utumishi boys, Philip, you're a gentleman with intellectual energy, and I love the fact that you come over on board to start off your team. I would like to combine Brian and Billy. I think you come and simplify the motion to the audience and even to us here as judges. Simply put, I believe the two of you are also very sharp and smart. All the best to the two teams.
Starehe girls, Zipporah, use of time. And when you have 3 minutes, we know what you can do in 3 minutes. Susan, a great cross-examiner. Evelyn, you're a great public speaker. You're very good. And you're basically the anchor of your team. All the best to the two schools.
To the two teams on stage, let me help you a bit, and also to the debaters that are here to take the stage. In case you're given a motion, and majorly a motion that touches on policy, then the most important thing, first of all, to do is to explain to the audience that there is a problem with the system, or there is a problem in the status quo, before you go ahead to provide a solution. Otherwise, the two teams, it was a fair debate.
Starehe girls got from the judges 73.3%. Give them a hand. And Utumishi Academy matched them fairly, almost actually equally, with the same 73.3. That means it's a tie for today, but we hope both teams proceed. At the end of the day, it's just a game of numbers.
From all of us here at the Great Debaters Contest, I am Austin Nyambok.
And I am Mariam Bishar. We'll see you next time.
The Great Debaters Contest was brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.